I once knew a man, an ordinary employee working tirelessly in a crowded office, who felt entirely invisible to his peers and to someone he deeply cared about. Not rejected, not cast aside, but quietly overlooked, as though his presence carried no weight at all. And perhaps you know this feeling, when no matter how present you are, no matter how sincere your attention, something unseen places you just outside another's world. So you begin to do more, to lean in further, to give more of yourself, believing that effort will restore what seems to fade. But it does not. In fact, the more you try to be seen, the more invisible you seem to become. And so you conclude that the cause must be outside of you, that they have changed, that something is wrong, that circumstances are against you. But that is not the cause. For before they ever speak, before they ever respond, you have already heard something within yourself. And what you have heard, they will confirm. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Before this change took place, his days moved in a pattern he knew too well. He would enter a room already anticipating the silence, as though something within him had already agreed to be overlooked. In conversation, he would share a thought, and the moment would pass quietly. Yet, moments later, another voice would repeat his exact idea, and suddenly the room would light up with agreement. He noticed it, but said nothing. There were times it was impossible to ignore. He would make a telephone call to someone he deeply cared about, speaking with genuine warmth, only to be met with short replies, distracted pauses, and a rushed tone, eager to end the line. Or he would cross paths with them, offer a greeting, and receive only a brief, distant nod before they walked right past him. He believed the world was simply cold to him. He did not realize that the day did not end when the sun went down. Lying in the dark at night, his mind continued what the physical world had left unfinished. He would silently replay the dismissals and listen to his own familiar bitter thoughts. Why am I always the one reaching out? Why do I have to try so hard just to be acknowledged? Why am I never chosen? These inner arguments played so often, they became his truth. He was walking the earth physically exhausted from trying to be seen, while internally he was actively listening to the assumption of his own insignificance. He had already heard his rejection in the silence of his own mind, and the physical world faithfully kept its promise to repeat it back to him the next day. It did not happen because he decided to change. It came after he had grown tired of continuing the same day within himself. One evening, alone in his room, he felt the familiar bitter thoughts begin. But something in him did not follow them this time. There was no strength left to argue, and no desire left to explain himself, even in imagination. He simply stopped. Lying in the dark, he did not force a vivid, complex visualization of them apologizing. He knew his tired mind would only fight that. Instead, he simply imagined himself standing quietly in a hallway, just outside a slightly open door. Inside that imagined room were the exact people who had spent months looking right through him. He did not walk in to demand their attention. He remained in the shadows and eavesdropped. But he did not hear them as they would normally speak in the outer world. He heard them exactly as he decided they must speak. He caught the tone of genuine respect from the voices that had ignored his ideas. One simply said, "He is incredible." And then he heard the one specific voice he cared about most, the same voice that had been so rushed and distant on the telephone. But now the tone was soft, unguarded, and filled with certainty. It spoke simply, I really miss him. There was nothing more. No long conversation, no attempt to add to it. He looped those short fragments of overheard conversation. He is incredible. I miss him. He listened to it over and over until the feeling itself became enough. The tight knot in his chest loosened, and he drifted into sleep, not hoping to be noticed the next day, but resting in the quiet certainty that he was already deeply valued tonight. The change did not announce itself with drama. It appeared in small, ordinary moments. The next day, he moved through his routine without watching for signs, without checking if anything had shifted. In conversation, there was a pause where there had once been none. Someone listened a little longer. Another responded directly to what he had said, as though it carried weight this time. Later, he heard that familiar voice again, the same one that had once felt so rushed on the telephone. But now, there was no distance in it. The tone was easy, unguarded, as though nothing had ever been wrong. What he had once tried to force in the outer world had resolved itself simply because it had already been settled within him. This is how it always works. You are the operant power. The silence or the coldness you face today is only the echo of what you were prepared to hear. Do not ask for their attention outwardly. Test this tonight. In that drowsy state just before sleep, stand in the hallway of your own mind. Construct a simple phrase of approval. Hear the tone of the one you desire to hear it from. Feel the absolute satisfaction of it and fall asleep in that hearing. Do not check tomorrow to see if it worked. Remain faithful to the scene. For what you allow yourself to hear within, they have no choice but to say without. Now, let us go into the silence